U.S. citizenship is more than a passport, it's the American dream realized. For many it means safety, opportunity, and a sense of belonging. It's the promise of building a life, voting, and never fearing deportation. But the journey is tough. Paperwork, fees, years of waiting and proving good moral character. Finally, holding a certificate of naturalization is a monumental relief. But imagine the terror of being told this hard-won status could be taken away. During the Trump administration, denaturalization, once rare, became a real threat. Immigrants feared that even small mistakes from years ago could unravel their lives. The rules seemed to change after the fact, creating panic in communities. People scrutinized every form they'd ever filled out, worried any error could be used against them. This wasn't just politics, it was about families, futures, and everything at stake. The American dream suddenly felt fragile. Citizenship, once a symbol of security, became a source of anxiety. The fear, could it all be taken away? So what do taxes have to do with citizenship? Your tax returns are a record of your honesty, a reflection of your character. Good moral character isn't just for getting citizenship, it's for keeping it. If the government finds you lied to gain citizenship, they can revoke it. One key way they check: your tax returns. They look for honesty in your filings. Did you claim dependents you didn't support, underreport income, or file as single when married? What might seem like a small shortcut can look like a willful lie to an immigration officer. A lie on a tax return can be evidence you lack the good moral character required for citizenship. The same document you use to fulfill your duty can be used to question your legitimacy. Under the Trump administration, this connection became a powerful enforcement tool. Tax season stress turned into a long-term threat for many immigrants. Suddenly, a tax mistake could threaten your very status. The link between taxes and citizenship became impossible to ignore. Good moral character is a serious legal standard in U.S. immigration. It's not just about avoiding crime, it's about honesty and respect for the law. The government wants to know, can you be trusted as a citizen? This requirement has been part of naturalization law for generations. Patterns of behavior matter: paying child support, avoiding serious crimes, and crucially, being honest with the government. Filing taxes is a legal obligation, and how you do it reflects your character. Every form you sign becomes part of your record. USCIS officers look for red flags, discrepancies, omissions, or falsehoods. Failing to file or filing falsely is a major breach of trust. Even if you meet all other requirements, lacking good moral character can mean denial or worse, losing citizenship. The law gives the government power to revisit your past and question your status. A single flaw in your record can bring everything down. Good moral character is the foundation of your citizenship. Your tax return is a sworn statement, signed under penalty of perjury. For immigrants, it's an annual test of honesty. When you apply for naturalization, you must provide tax returns for the last 5 years. USCIS compares your tax forms to your immigration forms. Do your dependents' marital status and income match? Any discrepancy raises questions. For example, filing as head of household while living with your spouse is a red flag. If you can't explain inconsistencies, it looks like you lied to the IRS or USCIS. Your tax return tells a story about your life and integrity. Honest mistakes can be forgiven, but a pattern of mistakes that benefit you looks like willful misrepresentation. That's a direct attack on your good moral character. The government sees your tax return as one of the most reliable pieces of evidence about you. It's not just paperwork, it's a truth test, and it can determine your future. The key word is willful, an intentional, knowing lie. The government must prove you willfully misrepresented a material fact to revoke citizenship. But intent is hard to prove, so they look for patterns. Claiming a dependent you don't support year after year looks deliberate. Not reporting cash income, especially if there's evidence elsewhere, is another red flag. Filing as single when married for a better refund? Classic sign of intent. What you see as a shortcut, the government sees as fraud. The burden is on you to prove it was an innocent mistake. Proving you didn't intend to deceive is tough. This ambiguity gives the government broad power to question your character. Even small, repeated errors can be used against you. Willful lies on tax returns are a direct threat to your citizenship. When you apply for citizenship, You must show good moral character for the past 5 years. Many think mistakes before that period don't matter, but that's not true. USCIS can look beyond the 5-year window if past conduct is relevant. An old tax issue, even from a decade ago, can still haunt you. The 5-year period is a minimum, not a shield. Serious, past misconduct like tax fraud can be used to deny or revoke citizenship. The government argues that true character doesn't change overnight. If you deceive the IRS for years, they can say you never deserve citizenship. This approach gives them power to dig into your entire history. Under Trump, this logic was used to target even naturalized citizens. A tax return from years ago could become the basis for denaturalization. In immigration, the past is never truly past. Let's move from theory to reality. Javier, a small business owner, didn't report all his cash income for years, thinking it was harmless. But when he applied for citizenship, old tax records told a different story. The government denied his dream, using past omissions as proof of dishonesty. Javier's story warns, even small, old mistakes can have lasting consequences. Claiming dependence on your taxes can save you money, but the rules are strict. You must provide over half of their support and meet other criteria. Maria, a nurse, lost her citizenship after claiming relatives she didn't fully support. The law holds taxpayers responsible, and mistakes can lead to federal charges or even denaturalization. The risk isn't worth a bigger refund. The way you describe your marital status is one of the most basic pieces of information on a tax form. Are you single, married filing jointly, married filing separately, or head of household? It seems simple enough, yet this single checkbox has been the downfall for many immigrants. A classic case involves individuals who are legally married but file as single or head of household because it often results in a lower tax bill or a larger refund. This is a direct contradiction of tax law, and it creates a glaring inconsistency that immigration officials are trained to spot. Let's look at the story of a couple, Carlos and Elena. Carlos and Elena were legally married and lived together. However, for several years, their tax preparer advised them to file their taxes separately as single. The preparer claimed it was better for them and would get them more money back from the government. Trusting the professional, they signed the forms each year. Later, Carlos, who was a permanent resident, applied for U.S. citizenship. As part of his application, he correctly stated that he was married to Elena, a U.S. citizen. He submitted his marriage certificate and his tax returns for the required 3-year period, not realizing the documents told 2 completely different stories. The USCIS officer immediately flagged the discrepancy. The interview became an interrogation. Your immigration form says you are married, but your tax forms for the last 3 years say you are single. Which one is the lie? Carlos was stunned. He tried to explain that his tax preparer told him to do it, but this defense fell on deaf ears. From the officer's perspective, Carlos had signed a legal document under penalty of perjury that contained a blatant falsehood. He'd either lied to the IRS to get more money, or he was lying to USCIS now about his marriage. Either way, his claim to good moral character was destroyed. His citizenship application was denied. But the nightmare didn't end there. The government could then argue that his permanent residency, his green card, was also at risk because it was based on his marriage to a U.S. citizen, a marriage he had denied on official government forms for years. This marriage mismatch is a powerful example of how a seemingly small lie on a tax form can spiral into a catastrophic immigration problem. It creates a direct contradiction that is nearly impossible to explain away, and it gives the government a clear and simple reason to deny benefits and even take away existing status. The government actions we've discussed are not just isolated incidents involving unlucky individuals. During the Trump administration, these efforts became more systematic and organized. A prime example of this was a program that USCIS launched in 2018 called Operation Janus. The program's name comes from the two-faced Roman god who looks to both the future and the past. Its goal was to systematically review the files of hundreds of thousands of naturalized citizens to search for cases where citizenship might have been granted in error. This was a dramatic shift from the previous practice of only pursuing denaturalization in the most extreme cases. Operation Janus began by focusing on a set of old fingerprint records that had not been properly digitized. The government identified about 315,000 cases where fingerprint data was missing from the centralized government database. They began checking these old prints against modern Homeland Security and FBI databases. The goal was to find individuals who may have used a different identity to hide a criminal record or deportation order when they originally applied for citizenship. While the initial focus was on identity fraud, the operation signaled a much broader, more aggressive willingness to re-examine the pasts of naturalized citizens. The creation of Operation Janus and the new USCIS office in Los Angeles dedicated to reviewing denaturalization cases sent a clear message to immigrant communities. The government was no longer just looking forward, it was actively digging into the past. This created a climate of fear. If they were willing to spend millions of dollars to check old fingerprints, what else were they willing to check? It was logical to assume that this new investigative energy would also be applied to other forms of fraud, including tax fraud. The tools to cross-reference tax and immigration records were already there. Now, the political will to use them aggressively was also present. This systematic approach meant that the risk was no longer just about a single suspicious officer looking at your file. It was about the potential for large-scale, data-driven investigations. Government agencies could, in theory, run programs to automatically flag discrepancies between tax records and immigration records for entire groups of naturalized citizens. Operation Janus was the proof that the government was building the infrastructure and dedicating the resources to revoke citizenship on a scale never seen before. For many, the promise of citizenship as a permanent, secure status felt like it was being erased and replaced with a state of perpetual probation. For decades, denaturalization was rare, reserved for the most severe cases. But under the Trump administration, a dramatic shift occurred. The welcoming idea of a nation of immigrants was replaced by a zero-tolerance approach, where even minor mistakes could trigger harsh consequences. Agencies like USCIS began to scrutinize every detail, and the message to immigrants was clear: any error could be used against you. The era of quiet discretion was over, replaced by aggressive prosecution and fear. The Trump administration didn't just talk tough, it created new offices like one in Los Angeles, dedicated to finding and stripping citizenship from those suspected of fraud. Dozens of lawyers and officers were hired, and agencies began sharing data more easily. This new infrastructure made it far easier and more likely for the government to scrutinize naturalized citizens' pasts. The Trump administration made the good moral character standard for citizenship much stricter, especially around tax issues. USCIS officers could now deny applications based on suspected tax fraud, even without a criminal conviction. This gave officers broad power to judge applicants, and even revoke citizenship years later, just for alleged tax mistakes. The Trump administration used public messaging to create a climate of fear and uncertainty for immigrants. Announcements about denaturalization and fraud were widely publicized, making many feel their citizenship was conditional. This messaging blurred the line between honest mistakes and criminal acts, leaving immigrants anxious, hesitant to participate in civic life, and constantly worried their status could be taken away. The Trump administration's policies didn't stay in government offices. They seeped into daily life, spreading fear and anxiety through immigrant communities. Whispers about denaturalization and old mistakes became a constant hum, making people question their past and their safety. The sense of security that citizenship once promised was replaced by uncertainty and fear. The whispers of fear left entire communities on edge, unsure of what the future might bring. Confusion and fear swept through immigrant communities as complex tax and immigration rules collided with aggressive enforcement. Misinformation spread, scammers preyed on anxieties, and trust in official channels crumbled. Many became too afraid to seek help or apply for citizenship, paralyzed by the risk of making a mistake. The process itself became the punishment, leaving millions trapped in uncertainty. The Trump administration's policies cast a chilling shadow over the American dream. For many immigrants, citizenship, once a symbol of security, now felt fragile, as if it could be revoked at any time. Fear and uncertainty replaced hope, discouraging risk-taking and ambition. Instead of belonging, many felt they were on permanent probation. The heart of the immigrant story, hope and security, was shaken. The path to U.S. citizenship is long and difficult, but the security it promises is worth it. Your tax returns are a powerful link to your right to remain an American, so be obsessively honest and careful. Every number you put on that Form 1040 is a statement under oath. Keep meticulous records, seek expert legal counsel, and never risk your dream on shortcuts. The American dream is still worth defending, with integrity and care.